June 17th, and I'm sitting with Pierre Remillard at the Diefenbunker in the MCC. Okay, so um, so while you were working at the bunker, you were in construction and maintenance and building operations. So what sorts of things did you do? I guess those were all different jobs. So what
That's
sorts of
right.
things?
Well, in the beginning, when I came in here, the roof was on, but they had no grass, no nothing. The elevator was not in the building. The stairwell were not on. You had to go down on a ladder to go down to the next floor. Or the first floor, when the first time I came here, I had the yellow tag, and each floor had different tag, different color. So you had to stay on the floor that your tag was on. I had to stay on the first floor, or the fourth floor, I should say. And if you get caught going down to another floor, you had to explain yourself why you were there, otherwise you could lose your job. It was really top secret at that time when they had the MP, military police walking all the time, different type of officer, and checking everybody. If you were different on the right floor, they called you in and wanted to know why.
And so that was while you were involved in the initial
In the construction, that's right.
And then afterwards, once the bunker was finished being built, you were still.
I stay in. They asked me if I wanted to stay to work on the maintenance, and I work on maintenance from 1961 till 73. And in 73, I started to work construction. Machine room operator.
Okay. So you were here at the bunker though for pretty much the entire operation.
That's right.
Okay. And so when the bunker was, after you were finished with the construction period and you started working at the bunker each day, would you come into the bunker usually?
Every day.
And how was that? What type of security was involved?
Well, as soon as you came in, you had to show your ID card. They had the MP at the front desk and outside, and you come in, and we had a room downstairs for maintenance, so we just report ourselves there. And if the operator through the night, if they had any problem, they'll let us know, and through the day we try to repair them, fix them.
Okay. So you commuted each day. You didn't stay in the bunker overnight.
No, the only time I stay in the bunker, it's 1962, when they had the Cold War with President Kennedy, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. I stay in for a week.
Oh, wow.
24 hours a day.
And did you know that was going to happen before you came into the bunker?
No.
So you reported to work in the morning.
That's right.
And then there was a lockdown?
Well, they told us the day before to bring your change of clothes for a week, your razor, and that was it. But they just said to bring your clothes in because we were going to be locked up. But they did say for how long? But it did it was for a week.
Yeah.
Because inside here we had the laundry room, we had everything, so you could wash your clothes and everything. So you were going to stay for a month.
Wow. What was that like, being underground the whole time and not being able to go home each night?
That was not that bad.
No?
Because the kitchen was open 24 hours a day. They had movie going on all the time, so you could sit down downstairs. They had a game like a shuffleboard, tennis, table tennis, and a pool table, so you could, spend a lot of time or play card or whatever.
And were there a lot of other people in here at the same time?
At that time, I think we were 300 and something. So you work 12-hour shift, what they call hot bedding. People go in, sleep for 12 hours, they get out of bed, the other crew jump in.
And did you get to know many of the other people who were working here, or was it just
No, we didn't talk about anything what was going on.
No, really?
No. The army had their own. That was the main. This place was the main station for communication, so they knew more about it what was going on than the civilian. We just stay here to if they had a problem in the kitchen or something, or so. No, we didn't know anything what was going on. Really, they did tell us. So
even when you were like with the 1 week overstay, you didn't know why you were staying for.
Well, we knew what we're staying for, but they did give us any tell you anything was going on. We did ask because everything we were supposed to, everything was hush hush. So we don't ask questions. Do your job and go to bed.
Did you spend most of your time then with other civilian employees in the bunker, or with? Did you get to know any of the military?
I knew some military. Yeah. The most of the people that we were friend with was mostly the military police or the cook, because it was we were both at that time. The machine room was downstairs, but the control room was here on this floor. So the military police was always there when we talked to each other every day.
Okay. Were there certain people in the bunker who you weren't allowed to talk to, or who you didn't know?
No, you were not supposed to bring any camera or tape recorder at that time, and so no, we could talk to anyone. As long as we did talk, as soon as we walk out the building, we forgot what we saw. They had a sign in the door, between the two doors, and they tell you what you saw today. Forget it before you hit the end of the tunnel. So.
Really?
Yeah.
And did they sit down with you formally and explain that sort of thing as well?
A few times you had to sign in. At that time, you had to. They check your background every year, and they tell you the same story every year. But in the meantime, say if my brother was in jail or something, I could have lost my job over it, or if my grandmother was a hooker, you're right out of business.
Yeah. When you started working here, how did you explain to your family? Did you tell them where you were working, or were you allowed to say what were you?
Well, they knew where I worked, but I was not able to tell them what I was doing. And often at that time, the first 13 years, I worked for a contractor from Montreal. And if we had a problem in the building, we have to fix it before we left the building. It had to be fixed the same day. So we had a store downstairs that we called the 30-day emergency store. We had part for every piece of equipment in the building. So we could fix it. Sometimes you leave at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and you get home, the wife asks you, what did you do? And I said, well, I worked overtime, but sometimes it works, sometimes they didn't believe you.
So because you weren't allowed to tell your family certain things, what did you think about, there were no non-employees allowed into the bunker, that's right?
That's right.
Did that bother you at all, that they couldn't come into the bunker?
Well, once a year, or they had, you could bring your wife in just for a visit to show them the building, but
was that just for spouses, or for anyone that you wanted? You could have one person.
No, it was mostly your family. Okay. We bring your kids and your wife.
Yeah. So did your family visit you here?
My wife did.
Yeah. And what did she think about the bunker?
She thought it was a nice building, but not more.
Yeah. When you said that you were down here during the Cuban Missile Crisis, That was kind of a scary time in the world. Were you ever afraid of?
You know, I was at that time I was 22, 23. You're not scared of anything at that age, you know. So really,
Mhm.
it did bother us a bit.
Really?
Yeah. And even if, you know, we're thinking, well, if Cuba attack was be the state, there's not going to be here. But you know, nobody, I don't think anybody was nervous about it.
Mhm.
The older people, like some of the officers were here, they said we passed pretty close to have a nuclear war. Well, we didn't know that. You know, it happened just a few minutes, and I don't know if you know Dave Peter. He'll, if you interview him, he will tell you about it, and he was one involved at that time with it. And
Mhm. But they weren't telling you anything during the lockdown and during other times. You didn't have something.
no, well, we had 3 bar in the building at that time. We had the officer mess, the sergeant mess, and a mess for the corporal below. So between when you're at time off, you just go and have a few drinks, and it was great.
I had heard that there wasn't alcohol allowed in the building, but there was.
No, nobody was able to bring booze in, but if the bar was open, you could go and have a drink there.
Okay.
But I know some way they brought booze in. It was very funny.
But you could sit down at the bar here, which was in the cafeteria, I assume, or?
One was where near the cafeteria.
Mhm.
The officer mess is where you got your Chinese thing there on the 3rd floor.
Uh-huh.
That was the officer mess, and the sergeant mess was on the 2nd floor, where they got all the bedroom and a little bathroom for the lady.
Uh-huh.
That's where the sergeant mess there, and we could play dart and cribbage and drink beer.
Oh, sounds kind of nice.
That was very nice.
So when you think back to working at the bunker for all of those years, do you have any sort of particular stories that you like to tell people, or?
Well, there's a lot of story, but you can talk about them. You know, this was just for the people who were inside the bunker at that time, really.
How do you mean?
Well, a lot of stuff that happened, you know, but it's the here. It's like what they say. What happened in Vegas, stay in Vegas, you know.
Okay, I see. So you don't have any sort of people say, "Oh, you worked in an underground bunker. What was that like?" And you say, "Well."
Yeah. Well, you know, they don't believe you for one thing, or you tell them what you had to do, and they, you know, say, we had a morgue, we had everything, and they you know, a morgue, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. And last from this section, do you? I know that you weren't allowed cameras inside, but I know that there were some photos taken in the bunker here and there. But even photographs from your life at that period or other objects or memorabilia, do you have any of that stuff
No.
still around? No.
Everything that I have, I give it to the bunker.
Okay. What sorts of things were they?
Oh, souvenir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought them back.
Okay.
I don't need them anymore.
Okay, that's section 1. There's 3 sections.
Mm-hmm.
This second section, did you feel that you've sort of touched on it a little bit already, but the idea of the Cold War, you say you were too young really for it to have an effect, but I mean, technically the Cold War was on the whole time that you were working here, but do you feel that it had an effect on your day-to-day life?
No,
No.
no. No, you just came here, do your work, and go home, and you don't think about it. And if it happened, it happened. But I think we're pretty safe here. At that time, they didn't have the bomb that we have today. Today, with a smart bomb, they put this building out in no time. They just have to hit the air intake or the exhaust or the your well, and you're out of the business.
Mhm.
So
Back then, did you know much about the technology of the bombs and that sort of thing?
no,
No.
it was no big deal for us. We just make sure that the building was in operation all the time. Everything was working. So when we left the building at 4 o'clock or 4:30, that was it.
And we did touch on this as well. Your wife lived in town here.
Yeah.
Soon, and she had been to the bunker
Right.
to visit, but she didn't. But it didn't bother her either. The Cold War and the bombs and
no.
the fact that the military was there. We were both.
Yeah, but in the early '60s, I was not married yet, so it did bother her, really. She came in later, and everything was pretty safe then.
Mm-hmm. Did your parents know that because you were quite young when you started working there, I assume. Did they know where you were working?
Yes.
Yeah. And they were also?
They were okay with that.
Good. How did you feel? I suppose maybe because of what you said so far, but you didn't really know or think about the fact that a bomb might be dropped, but did it bother you, the fact that the families wouldn't be allowed to come into the bunker if that happened? Or did you think about that? Or
I did really think about that.
Mm-hmm.
No. But I talked to a lot of soldiers. They say if the war was, something was going to happen, a lot of them were not going to show up. They were going to stay with their family.
Really?
Yeah.
So. Interesting.
Because Diefenbunker didn't want to come in here either. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to come in without his wife. And so I got a lot of, when he mentioned that, I guess a lot of people was thinking the same way. Well,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was it just soldiers who thought that way, or other civilians as well?
Not too many civilians, but I'm sure that if it was on a decision, that maybe some of them would stay home too. Mm-hmm. That would have been the last minute decision to take, just a few hours before you're supposed to show up. And
yeah. Did you know many other people? I assume you knew a lot of people in the town because you lived in Carp?
No, I live in Ottawa at that time, but okay. I know a lot of people in Carp too.
Yeah. And how did the town know anything about the bunker, or? Well,
they knew it was a shelter, but they never asked us any question because everybody knew it was a place where everything was hush hush, was top secret, so they never asked you anything. Okay. And I met a lot of people in Carp. We drink together, and they never bring that up.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So this section is a little more general, not so much about the bunker itself, but during that period of sort of the Cold War and communism in the USSR and that sort of thing, what were some news stories at the time that were sort of big news to you, or that you remember specifically?
Well, I remember when the American jet was shut down over Russia. Mm-hmm. I think you got part of the jet of the airplane downstairs. That was a big news at that time, but otherwise, really it was
Why was it that one that stands out to you? Do you think?
Because they didn't want to tell if the pilot was killed or not, but he was alive. They kept him in jail over there for a couple of years before they. I think his name was Power. I forgot his first name, and they kept him in jail for I don't know how many years before they let him out.
And what did you know about the Soviet Union at the time?
Not much. Yeah.
Did the news talk about the Soviet Union very much?
Oh, I guess they did, but I don't think. I don't know. At that time, we did think too much about it. No.
And did you mentioned Prime Minister Diefenbunker a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Did he never came to visit the bunker?
No.
Did you know much about him at all?
No.
No.
I know the only prime minister to ever show up here, it was Pierre Remillard.
Okay.
And he did stay very long. Mm-hmm. Just look at the place, and I don't think he was too pleased about his suite.
Were you here when he visited?
I guess I was working that day, yes, but I did see him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you feel that, I mean, it seems like from what you've been saying that the Cold War was a bit distant to you, but did you feel that Canada had much of a role to play in it? Or was it?
Not really, because we didn't have much of an air force at that time. I mean, the Prime Minister Trudeau had cut the armed forces in half. We had only, I think, 68,000 member of the forces. So what can you do with that kind of people? They got more people than that on the ship in the state than what we had on the old armed forces. So I don't agree with all the policy in the United States, but are the best neighbor that anybody can have. So you have to count on them. So that's the way I was thinking. Well, if Canadian armed forces can do nothing, the Americans going to help us.
Do you remember there being any sort of fears or anxieties about communism?
No. No.
And did you react or have any sort of feelings at all when the Berlin Wall fell?
Well, I was glad that happened. Mm-hmm. So they were free, and the East and the West got together, and that was nice when it happened.
But you didn't think about it in relation to your work at the bunker?
No. No.
And one final question. Why do you think it's important to remember the Cold War and your experiences here?
Well, in school today, I don't think they teach enough about it. And this big building is very well built. It's going to stay here forever. And it was a shame that they were just going to close it and put cement on the air and, at the front door and the air intake and forget it. So that's why we fought to get the building open and have a museum out of it. And I'm glad it's open. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are enjoying it. And I don't know how many you're getting every year, but it's every year you're getting more and more. So that's great.